Hello guys, Jay here from Guildball Informer and welcome to the next video. As the title image just suggested, this is Meet the Butchers. That is right, we are doing the next in the series of the Meet the Season 1 teams. My plan here is to give you an overview of each of the players, then maybe as the team on a whole, any experiences I've had with them and such. I'm sure you've all seen Meet the Brewers and Meet the Fishermen by Guildball TV. Hope you enjoyed them. We're going to do this one today. So, the Butchers, everyone's favourite damage monsters. These were one of my first teams to use. I still enjoy using them more than most, if I'm honest. They're very fun to use. They're also very popular in Season 1, and it's quite obvious why. I think they're a very good first team to pick up because their playstyle is very clear. It's very obvious what each model needs to be, and quite frankly, that is literally just smashing your opponent in the face until there's no one left and forget about the football. According to the fluff, again really backs up their playstyle. Grayscale says they're all stone cold killers. And here's a quote from the fluff which does tickle me. It says, "These guys only play their guild ball one way, pounding down the pitch in a headlong charge, a juggernaut driven into the opposition that leaves a mess behind them and makes shipwrecks look more salvageable." So there you go. So in this video we're going to give a rundown of each player, experiences I've had using them, and then at the end I will probably come back and we'll look at maybe potential union choices and stuff. Right guys, I think we'll start with the captain, which is Ox. Okay guys, let's get straight into it, and we're going to start with El Capitano, Ox. One of my favourite captains. What a guy. We'll have a quick read through the fluff first. Brief over is, Ox is a man who rules with an iron fist. I suppose you'd have to be when your guild is full of bloodthirsty maniacs, it says. He has very little interest in football, and he's really built his team into a unified crew. None of them dare step over the line and challenge him. Even Boar, and as we'll get onto, Boar is a little bit crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the front of his card on the screen now. Right, so we'll have a look. So Ox, he is movement 5/8 inches, very good. And then the first thing that jumps straight out to me is tack 7. Tack 7 is nasty. Anything over tack 6, which is pretty much Ox, Boar, and I think there's one other character, but anything over tack 6, you know he's going to go in there and do some serious damage. He's got a kick of 3/6 inches, which is very handy in a butcher's team, a kick of 3. If you need to play football, which I've found in my experience is usually very late game, say if your opponent only has 3 models on the table, at that point it's very easy for you to get the last 4 VPs via scoring a goal. Other than that, I pretty much hide the ball and go and smash stuff in the head. Defense 3+, I suppose average, 1 armor, and he generates 4 influence and can be assigned 5, which is pretty good. 4 is like your standard point for what momentum captains generate, and the way I tend to play with my captains, I tend to give them at least what they generate most turns, so that's pretty good. So next up is his character trait, the owner. This is a 4-inch aura, so with it being an aura, it also affects himself. While within this aura, friendly models gain +1 damage to character plays that cause damage and playbook damage results. That's huge. So anything him or anyone within 4 inches does is a +1 damage, and in a team like the Butchers, that is seriously nasty. And as we'll get onto, Boar makes the best use of that, as well as Ox. And then we're going to go on to his legendary, which makes it even better. So I'll pop his legendary on screen now just separately for you to have a read of. And his legendary is Get 'em Lads, which is a 6-inch aura. While within this aura, friendly models gain +1 damage to character plays that cause damage and playbook damage results. Enemy models within this aura suffers -1 armor. So if you set up for that turn where Boar is going to get his free charge off and Ox is ready to do some damage, you can potentially have anyone in this bubble at +2 damage, -1 armor. And let's be honest, if the likes of Ox and Boar and even Meat Hook, and pretty much most of the Butchers to be honest, go charging in, there isn't going to be much left at that point. And then you can also look into it that you could have Meat Hook, who can tooled up, so you could have people at +3 damage. So yeah, as you can imagine, it's pretty scary stuff and it can be used to massively great effect. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is we'll switch, we'll have a look at the back of his card. So we'll go through his playbook first. So on one successful hit, he can do a 1-inch push or a momentous 1 damage. For 2 successful hits, he can do the they ain't tough play, which we'll get to, or a momentous tackle. That's quite good having that low down the playbook. For 3, he can do a 2-inch push. For 4 successful hits, he can knock down or do a momentous 2 damage. For 5 successful hits, he can do 2 damage with a 2-inch push and a point of momentum, which is pretty good. And then at 6 successful hits, he's doing 3 momentous damage. And then at 7, he's doing 1 damage and the butchery play. What you got to remember is all those will always be at +1 as well, so he can really dish out the pain when he wants to. He's melee range 1, which you'd expect really. And then we'll go on to his character plays. Tough Skin, cost 1, range 4 inches. Target friendly model gains +1 armor. Can only be used once per turn. Pretty handy thing. You see a fair bit of that in game. And then for 2 or 2 successful hits on the playbook, they ain't tough. Target enemy model suffers -1 armor. I've used this very successfully, to be honest. It again is another way to really maximize the damage on someone you want to single out. So if you can imagine that coupled with his legendary -2 armor, those masons who we all know are a pain for armor, you can literally strip them of it and put some serious hurt in there. And then the last play he has is Butchery, which costs 2 or can be activated on 7 successful hits on the playbook with a 6-inch range. Friendly model gains +1 damage to playbook damage results against the target enemy model. So again, from the captain it becomes very clear, and it's a pattern you'll see throughout. He is really about boosting the damage that you guys can do, and that is exactly what the butchers do best. Great, Ox is a great profile, great captain, and I absolutely love the Kickstarter sculpt, which you can see on screen at the moment. What's not to love about him? So, Ox is pretty much done. I think we're going to move over to Princess now, guys. Alright guys, next up is the mascot Princess, and I've got to say this is probably my favourite Season 1 mascot model. It's full of attitude, and with a name like Princess, it's pretty good. So, fluff-wise, no one knows where she came from. Princess has been a part of the team for a long time, and she's just part of the fixtures and fittings. So I'm going to throw the front of her card up on screen now. Princess has a move of 6 inches / 8 inches, so she can really get around the board. And then the first thing which I absolutely love about her, she's tack 4. And tack 4 on a mascot is pretty good. She can definitely do something, especially when I read you her playbook in a minute. She has a kick of 1 dice 4 inches, which is standard. She is a defense of 4+ with 1 armor. The armor is great. And she generates 1 influence and can have a maximum of 2, which is, yeah, it's pretty standard mascot stuff. And then character traits. Loved creature. When this model suffers a taken out condition as a result of an enemy attack or play, the friendly team immediately gains 2 momentum, and for the remainder of the turn, friendly models gain +2 attack and +2 move. Now, if you kill Princess, what are you doing? Don't kill her. You're making the butchers even better. You're giving them more dice when they attack you, and you're making them even faster for a turn. If you don't need to kill Princess for the VPs, just don't do it. and that's my outlook on it. And she has 10 health boxes, which is pretty good. Next, we'll have a look at the back of her card. So, melee range 1, as you'd expect. She's only a little dog, but what she lacks in melee range, she makes up for in other ways. So, we'll have a look at her playbook. For 1 successful hit, she gains 1 damage or can do a momentous tackle, and that is awesome. She's tack 4 as well. Hopefully, throwing her into most things, you're gonna get 1 net hit, so she is good at getting hold of the ball. For 2 successful hits, she can activate the Blood character play, which we'll get to, or 2 momentous damage. And then for 3 successful hits, she can activate the Rabid Animal character play. And for 4 successful hits, and you've got to bear in mind she's tack 4, 8 on the charge, she can do 3 damage. A mascot doing 3 damage, which would be 4 if close to Ox. That's nasty, man. She can really dish it out when she wants to. Alright, so the 3 damage is momentous, by the way, if I didn't mention that. So we'll go on to a character plays. The first one is Blood, which is activated on 2 successful hits. Target enemy model suffers the bleed condition. Bleed is awesome. Yeah, your opponent is usually going to clear it because they don't want to lose 3 damage in the maintenance phase, but in that case it still has a use because it's making your enemy use their momentum. And what the butchers do very well is rack up momentum, because most, if not all, of their damage, if I'm right, is momentous. So next character play is Rabid Animal, which is activated on 3 successful hits. Target enemy model suffers -4/-4 move and the poison condition. So you can imagine the little dog charging across the pitch, chewing at your ankles, a little bit of rabies, and really slowing you down. That is so handy. It's very rare I pull it off, if I'm honest. The way I play the butchers is I pick 2, 3, maybe 4 key models who are in advantageous places for that turn and beef them with influence, but that is so handy. You've got to bear in mind as well, you can get the ball for 1, and then you can slow down key players from the enemy team. I've got to say, Princess is right up there with my favourite mascots, not just because of the way she looks, but that is a solid profile all round. You cannot fault it. Next, we're going to go on to the big daddy of the Butcher's team, which is Boar. Okay guys, here he is, the big man Boar, what is potentially the biggest damage monster in Season 1 of Guildball. And looking at his model, you can see why. He's charging, he's huge, he's got a big axe, he's ready for a scrap. So we'll start with his fluff. Flint tells us about Boar's evil grin and crazy eyes. And when his blood boils, he starts to foam from the mouth in game. That tells us pretty much everything we need to know about him, I think. He does have a lot of respect for Ox, as he's the only one who's brave enough to be around him during and after games, but he doesn't give 2 what's-its about anyone else. He doesn't even really care about Guildball, but pretty much he uses it a way of letting him do what he likes to do best, which is butchering, killing, murdering, without going to jail. Boar knows he's a bit crazy and he really doesn't care. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to throw the front of his card on screen now. So let's get into the absolutely insane stuff. So he is movement 4/6, which is your standard big guy movement. That's okay. And then the next bit, here it comes. Tack 8. He's tack 8. He gets 8 dice base. That is massive. It says it all. I don't really need to say anything else about that. He's the only person with tack 8 in Season 1 of Guildball. So he has a kick of 1/6 inches. Fair enough. He's not there to kick the ball. Defense of 2+, standard big guy. Defense, no armor, as you can tell looking at the model. Be a little bit strange if he did. And he generates 1 influence. Here's the strange thing. And you can assign a maximum of 1 to him. But the more you go through his card, you will see why. So we're going to go on to his character traits. So the first one, Berserk. During his activation, if this model damages an enemy model this turn, it may make an additional attack without spending influence. This ability cannot generate a further additional attack from itself. Okay, that's huge, but we're going to read the next one before we talk about it. Furious. This model may charge without spending influence. So, what you see Boar doing is charging for free. 12 dice, loads of damage. He then activates his Berserk trait, which lets him attack for free because he did damage. Then the 1 influence you've assigned to him, he will attack with. And then, because he did damage again, he will go Berserk again. So you are getting, for 1 influence, what effectively could be worth 5 in game. And he's doing 1 attack at tack 12, then 3 attacks at tack 8. That's huge. You can see why he dishes out damage like no one else in the game, and that's even more echoed by his playbook, which we're going to get to in a minute. You have never seen anyone do as much damage as Boar, especially when close to Ox and tooled up. It's grim. It is truly grim. He can usually, on a good day, take down most players in an activation if in position to. Yeah, he's a beast. Then his last character trait is Regenerate. So, at the start of the maintenance phase, before conditions are resolved, this model recovers 2 HP. Like he needed to get any better. Wow. So every turn he's recovering 2 HP in the maintenance phase, which is brilliant. And the way I really like that is, say for example, when he's poisoned, I effectively don't usually clear it off Boar, because he will take his poison damage and then regenerate effectively the same. So it's it's handy for that, as well as the fact it just keeps him alive. And he has 22 damage boxes, so he can really take a beating as well. And now we'll have a look at the back of his card. So Boar has a 2-inch melee, which is powerful, but judging the size of the axe you can see he's waving, and the size of him, you'd kind of expect it. Let's do his playbook. So for 1 successful hit, he does a 1 momentous damage. For 2 successful hits, he can do a 1-inch push or 2 momentous damage. For 3 successful hits, he can do the hamstring character play, which we'll get to in a minute, or knock down. 4 successful hits, he can do a momentous 3 damage. For 5 successful hits, he can momentously tackle. Yeah, it's quite high up his playbook, but 1, you probably wouldn't be using him for that, and 2, remember he's tack 8. For 6 successful hits, he can do a 2-inch push. And then you get into the big daddy numbers. For 7 successful hits, he can do a momentous 4 damage. Yeah. And then for 8 successful hits, and this is the one that really annoys your opponent when you get it off, he can do 4 damage and activate the concussion ability. So we'll start with that one. I know it's second, but concussion. Target enemy model loses 1 influence. So you are doing 4 damage, and the model you've attacked, so likely you'd probably go for that if the model hadn't activated, because the other one would gain you momentum. And so you charge him into a model who hasn't activated yet, and you can start bleeding the influence off that model and stop him doing what he's planned to do for the turn. That's really good. And then the second one, which is equally a good, hamstring. It activates for 3 successful hits. Target enemy model suffers -4/-4 move. Awesome. So as you can see by that, Boar is an absolute beast. His playbook is full of damage, and then couple that with the fact that he is high tack and can be tooled up. He is absolutely the best damage dealer in the game. There is a lot of Season 1 love for this guy, and we're going to move on to Shank next. Cheers guys. Okay guys, next up is Shank. Now I've got a lot of love for this guy. You do see him not in some butcher teams. I totally don't get that. We'll go over his card. Be interesting to hear your opinions in the comments and stuff as always. I do love this guy though, and we'll start with his fluff. So his fluff tells us he's fast, he's stealthy, he's discreet, he's accurate. He's a bit more of an assassin than an actual butcher. He came from the slums of, and I'm going to see if I can pronounce this, Erskiri? Someone correct me please. And he was literally brought up by the local gangs, designed for a life of death basically. He was a kid with absolutely nothing other than a talent for knives. He sees the Butchers Guild as another gang basically with much better pay. So I love this guy, as I've mentioned, and I'm going to throw the front of his card up onto the screen now. So Shank is movement 5/8 inches, so he's very fast. He is very fast. You've got to love that about him. He can really move, even more so when I go over his traits and stuff. He's tack 6, so he's got an excellent tack, as do the Butchers on the whole. He is up there with some captains. Tack 6 is very good. He's got a kick of 2/6 inches, which is very middle of the road. That's okay with the Butchers. He is defensive 4+, which is good. No armor. He generates 2 influence, which is always a bonus. Models that generate 2 influence are immediately something I lean towards, because the more influence you've got at the end of the day, the more we can all do. And the maximum he can have is 4. So, character traits. Damage target. When this model performs a charge against a damaged enemy model, it gains +0/+2 move. So instantly, when models are damaged, which most likely some if not all of them will be against your Butchers, he has a 10-inch charge. He has 14 HP, and that 10-inch charge we've just mentioned, we're just going to throw the back of the card up on the screen now. The 10-inch charge we've just mentioned is even better because he has a 2-inch melee range. So at that point he has a 12-inch threat range, which is big. He can really cover some ground and get to who he needs to or what he needs to get things done. The guy's awesome. He can adapt to pretty much anything. And then let's have a look at his playbook. So, for one successful hit, he can do 1 damage, momentous with a 1-inch dodge. For 2 successful hits, he can do a momentous tackle, or 2 momentous damage with a 1-inch dodge. For 3 successful hits, he can activate the Where'd They Go character play, which we'll get onto in a minute. For 4 successful hits, he can do 3 damage with a 1-inch dodge momentously. 5 successful hits, 1,000 cuts he can activate from his character plays, and for 6 successful hits, he can do 3 damage with a 2-inch dodge momentous. So as you can see, he can really dish out damage. The fact he's tack 6 is good, and all his damage has dodges. So it really leans to the style of player he is and the fluff. He flies in, does what he needs to do, and gets back out. He's very agile. And then as we go on to his character plays, we'll see how he gets even better. Where'd They Go, which costs 1, or can activate on 3 successful hits, and more likely than not, you're going to use this most turns and just pay for it with influence. This model may make a 4-inch dodge. This can only be used once per turn. So now, looking at Shank, he has a 16-inch threat range potentially across the table. And when you're playing on a 3x3, he's covering most of the board. He's covering a good half of it. He can fly across the table. He is amazing. And yeah, there are people who do more damage, etc, etc, but having him who can move so much is invaluable to the way I play Butchers. Anyway, he can really get things done. And then his other character play is 1,000 Cuts, which costs 3 influence or can be activated on 5 successful hits. And that is damage target, target enemy model suffers -2 defense and 1 damage. That's pretty good. I don't think I've ever used that, if I'm honest. No, I can't think of any time I've used that, but it is a very good ability. Especially, let's say, for example, if you can get that off, knowing that Boar can then follow up and go in and just destroy stuff, really lower the defense and maximize the hits that your Oxes and your Boars are going to do. You can imagine how good that is. Like I say, this guy's brilliant. The fact that how far he can move, all the damage he does on his playbook is momentous, so he can get himself back out from being engaged. And the Where'd They Go means if he is engaged at the start of activation, he can dodge out. So he's always got the ability to get that charge off more often than not. Great player. He is a winger, according to his stat card, as you'll see on screen, which is quite fitting, and I have a hell of a lot of love for this guy. So I will stop fangirling him. Next we're going to go to the only football player in the Butchers team, which is Brisket. Right guys, next up is Brisket. I have a confession to make. She's not usually in my Butchers starting 6, but she is very good, and it's just the way I play Butchers, which we'll probably talk about in a quick minute. But we're going to go over her profile now. I think we'll start with the fluff. Brisket was always destined to be a part of the Butchers Guild. She is 2nd generation Butchers Guild, in fact. Her mother and father were part of the guild. Ox often refers to her as a good girl, and she's very well respected by everybody within the guild. She's invaluable to the guild, given the fact that she's the only player who can play the ball and play the ball well. She is the guild's highest goal scorer in decades, and people make a very big mistake if they ever consider her as a soft touch. And to me, she is one of the better strikers in the game, and you will see why. So I think now we're going to throw up her card. We'll look at the front of her card. Excuse me. So Brisket has a 6/8-inch move, so she's fast, as you want from a striker. She's tack 4, which is also very good for a striker. She has a kick of 3, and the key thing here is it's 8 inches. Your best strikers in the game are the ones with the 8-inch kicks, because it means you can really get a goal in from a fair distance away. So she's a kick of 3/8 inches. She has a 4+ defense with 1 armor, so she's not going to be taking a ton of hits every time she's hit, more so because something we'll mention in a sec. And influence, she generates 2, again, always a bonus, and she can have a maximum of 4. So, character traits. First one, as I mentioned in the Meet the Brewers videos, one of my favourite traits, unpredictable movement, which you all know, but once per turn, when an enemy model ends an advance in this model's melee zone, so that means a sprint, a jog, or a charge, this model may immediately make a 2-inch dodge. So she gets charged, she just literally gets to make a 2-inch dodge out. The only way she's still going to get hit is if it's a 2-inch melee model and its charge lets it get into base contact with her. But you have no idea how many times unpredictable movement can pull you out of a tricky spot, or it makes your opponent change his battle plan, because depending on where his players are, they just can't get to her with that trait. It's invaluable. And then the next one, Charmed Male. This model gains +1 defense against every attack and character play made by the named model type. So if it's a guy, which most of the Guildball players in Season 1 are, it's defense 5 +1 armor, which means she's even more durable, which is so handy when she's got the ball and things like that. And then the last one is attack support. Princess. While within 4 inches of the named model, Princess, this model gains +2 tack. So if the dog's handy, she's at tack 6. Again, massive. Tack 6 is like some captains, that's really good. She has 12 health, which is good for a striker. You wouldn't expect much more than that, any less, and she'd be a bit squishy. And I think we're going to switch over and have a look at the back of her card. Okay, let's have a look. So we'll have a look at a playbook first. So on 1 successful hit, she can do 1 damage or momentous tackle. You want a momentous tackle on 1 with someone who's going to be your out and out footballer. For 2 successful hits, she can do a 2-inch dodge or a momentous 2 damage. For 3 successful hits, she can do dirty knives, which we'll get onto, or she can do 2 momentous damage with a 1-inch dodge. And then on 4 successful hits, she only has 4 columns on her playbook, but for 4 successful hits, she can do 2 damage with a 2-inch dodge momentous. So she can still dish out a fair bit of damage for a striker. She has a melee zone of 1, which, yeah, that's fine. Character plays. Super shot. Boom. Instantly. 500% better as a striker. This model gains +1, +2-inch kick. So all of a sudden, you've got a striker with unpredictable movement and an 8-inch sprint who's got a kick of 4 dice, 10 inches. That's huge. That is literally huge. It says it all in itself. It means she's going to be putting goals in left, right and centre, and that's dealt with very quickly. And then her other ability, which I do really rate as well, Dirty Knives. Friday has this as well. Target enemy model suffers -1 defense, 1 damage and the poison condition, which is great. Again, the -1 defense is great if you're going to throw other guys in afterwards. 1 damage is 1 damage, and the poison condition is either damage every turn or it's making your opponent use momentum, which is always a good thing. So do you know what? She's arguably one of the best strikers in the game. I'm happy to say that. But I don't use her for... I tend to switch in Rage, if I'm honest, and just have fun with it and play all out damage with my butchers. Again, which we'll probably get onto in a minute. So that, guys, is Brisket in a nutshell. She is brilliant. And I think next we're going to go on to everyone's favourite little kid, which is Boiler. Okay, guys, here we have Boiler. And at this point, I'm going to point out, can apologise, the models aren't quite fully painted for this video. You may have noticed with Brisket's hair, for example, I've just got Brisket and Boiler to finish. As you can see, I just need to pick out the straps and the hair and stuff, so I'm sorry, but I really wanted to get this video to you, and they are done on the most part, so apologies. You will also notice as well, Boiler is going to be the last model I cover in this video. There is no meat hook. One reason being that I did snap one of the hooks in her hands, and I'm not a massive fan of the model, so I haven't been motivated to paint it. So for that reason, I won't put her in this video. But if you'd like to see her in her own add-on video, please let me know. I can happily do this format for meat hook. I will get it painted up if it's something you guys want to see and something you watch. So anyway, Boiler, love this kid. He is so cool. The fluff literally tells you that he's the new kid on the block. He knows very little about Guildball. He's here, and all we know about him is he's quite close with Princess, the mascot. So guys, I'm going to throw the front of his card up on screen now. So, Boiler. He's a move of 6/8 inches, so another player who can get round the table. Tack of 5, great. Anything above tack 4 for me is great. He's got a kick of 2/6 inches, so it's not horrendous, it's not great. Defense of 4+, good. 1 armor, very handy. And again, a reason to love him. He generates 2 influence, always a plus, and he can have a maximum of 4. So that's his stat line. Let's have a look at his character traits now. First one, excuse me, anatomical precision. During an attack from this model, enemy models suffer -1 armor. So good, so good. Mason's being the main reason he's so good, but it literally means he's negating a point of armor. So it's another dice that would have been a successful hit that you're keeping hold of. So it's not to be laughed at. It's so handy. And the next one, crucial artery. When damaged by this model, enemy models suffer the bleed condition. I love this. So no matter what he does when he attacks, doesn't matter at all, as long as he does damage, you know that in the maintenance phase, if your opponent doesn't use momentum to clear this, he's taking 3 damage. That is a wicked character trait, I love it. And then his last one is assist princess. When making an attack against an enemy model that is engaged by princess, this model gains +1 tack, so he goes to tack 6. Again, all the tack 6 in this team is crazy, and +1 damage to playbook damage results. So as you've seen across the board, the +1 to damage results and stuff like that is huge, and it can really stack up. And on paper, when I first got into the Butcher's Guild, I was very much like, yeah, Boiler, he's alright. But the more I've actually used him, the more I fell in love with him. I see he's so much better than I gave him credit for when I first started playing the game. So guys, worth mentioning as well, he has 14 HP. What we're going to do is we're going to switch over and have a look at the back of his card now. So, Boiler, he has a melee range of 1, which you'd expect. You've got 2 players with a 2-inch melee in this team, which is great, in Shank and Boar. So we'll have a look at his playbook. So for 1 successful hit, he can activate the mark target character play, we'll get onto in a minute, or 1 damage. For 2 successful hits, he can do a momentous tackle, or a momentous 2 damage. Pretty good for 2. For 3 successful hits, he can do a 1-inch push and a 1-inch dodge. For 4 successful hits, Boiler will knock down. And for 5 successful hits, I love seeing this across all the butchers, momentous 3 damage. Brilliant. Next we'll do his character plays. So, Swift Stance. Cost 2, range of 4 inches. Target friendly model gains +1 defense. It's a sustainability, so it lasts till the end of the turn. That's awesome. Yeah, I know you look at it and you go, it costs 2, but it's the fact that it doesn't have to be on Boiler. It has a 4-inch range. So if you've got someone looking like he's going to go down, or you want to make it harder for your opponent to get the ball on someone you may have already activated, this is a way of buffing them to make it harder to do so. Swift Stance is great in my opinion. I think that could be one of the underrated ones. And his next character play, Mark Target, which can cost 1 influence, or he can activate for 1 successful hit on his playbook. Friendly models who declare a charge against the affected enemy model gain +2 movement. So this can only be used once per turn. So that is a great little tool. Again, it's all about the butchers really buffing each other. It just means that if someone is slightly out of range, this is a very good thing to do, to go, right, you can now get in, go and smash him to pieces. Yeah, so that, guys, is Boiler. As mentioned, you don't initially realise how good he is, I think, especially when paired with Princess, and the fact that he ignores 1 armor and automatically does the bleed upon doing damage. He's a nasty little kid, and I am really hoping, we have been told at this point we're going to get 1 profile that is sort of a season 1 character, maybe grew up or changed for each team. I'm really hoping we see Boiler growing up through the seasons, because if he's this good as a kid, I would hate to see him in a couple of seasons time. So that, guys, is the 6 players for the Butcher's Guild. As mentioned, we didn't do Meat Hook, but please stick it in the comments below. I'm quite happy to. If you guys want to watch it, as with anything, I will happily do it. What I think now is I'll throw the full team back on screen. You don't want to be looking at me, I'm sure. We'll have a quick chat about how I might play with them, my experiences, potential union choices, things like that. Right, guys, thank you. Right, guys, that's it. The Butcher's Guild in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed those quick overviews of each of the profiles and how I may use certain abilities and stuff. If I missed anything obvious, or you can recommend to me any different ways to use them, please stick it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I very much want these to be a bit of a soundboard and us all get talking, because I do intend on using this guild more and more. Butchers, they are a great fun team to play. And one thing I have found is I think people do very well with the butchers from the offset. As I mentioned in earlier in the video, it is very clear how to use the butchers. And one thing I've found in Guildball is once you really embrace the play style of your team, you do so much better. And with the butchers, it is very clear. You just go and really put the hurt on people. You want to win by 6 takedowns or 4 and 1 goal. Although at the recent tournament, Boar did score a goal for the butchers, which was pretty impressive. But what you want to be doing with these guys is getting in there, doing damage, using the synergy and the buffs to damage for your key players, and just really keeping your opponent on the back foot. And the momentum generation is really good as well. Yeah, as I mentioned, they're a very good team to pick up if anyone's looking at the game and they do like these models but are unsure which team to go for. I would say do it. They're a very fun team to use, that's why I'm using them a lot. They're also a lot easier to really adapt to than, let's say, the Morticians or the Alchemists, for example. Tactics. When I use the Butchers, it's pretty simple. I'm going all out damage. I'm literally just receive the ball if I win the roll off, get it somewhere safe, maybe even with Princess, as she can counter attack and momentous tackle back on 1 hit, get her out of the way, and then just seriously put the hurt on people. Ox and Boar paired up, they are unmatchable when it comes to damage output. The only team who are going to give me a good fight is the Brewers, but played right, they're still not going to cut it. These guys are going to tear them to shreds, in my opinion. Union. When I come to use Union, Rage, because let's face it, if you can take Rage, you do take Rage. He effectively has the ability that Boar has, which gives him the charge for free and the free attack and stuff, so he's basically a mini Boar. So having 2 guys with that on the table really screws your opponent, because for example with Boar, Boar's biggest pest in my games, which is usually against Fishermen, is Hemlock. Hemlock just goes bang, -4 move, on a 2+, you now have a 2-inch charge range, and he can be outmaneuvered. But having 2 guys who get that who can do insane amounts of damage for so little influence is amazing. So Rage is pretty much an auto include for me. What my usual Butchers team would be, just 6 players if we're not doing a sideboard for tournaments, it would be Ox and Princess, which the auto includes, Boar, Shank, Rage, and then either Boiler or Gutter, because the more I see Gutter used, the more I'm leaning towards Gutter. But more often than not, it would just be Ox, Princess, Boar, Boiler, Shank, Rage. So from what you can see on screen, remove Brisket and put Rage in, and that there is my usual Butchers team. Because I don't really want to play football with Brisket, I want to just have some fun with them, and they do it well. I want to just get out there and smash some skulls and win by 6 takedowns. And I also find I'm very quick with the Butchers when playing on chess clocks as well. So I like to just do maximum damage and concentrate on that. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Between myself and Jamie of Guildball TV, we've now covered the Fishermen, the Brewers, and the Butchers. Next from me in a week or 2's time is going to be Meet the Morticians, and a couple of things about that video. Not only is it going to have a very special guest who is a bit of a Mortician guru, but you're also going to see my brand new shiny models from James of Yggdrasil Painting Studios, I hope I pronounced that right, who does the weekly hobby videos for the channel. So yeah, you're going to have the Morticians from me very soon, and I'm pretty sure that very close after that, Jamie is going to be doing the Masons. If you're not following Guildball TV, why not? It is a weekly slot on the Great British Hobbit League YouTube channel, Hobbit is a game that me and Jamie both play. So get over there and subscribe, and he releases videos of a Tuesday which are Guildball related, so go and check it out. As always guys, please get involved, please like and share the video, and commenting on the video actually helps me a lot. I'm really loving all the interest this channel is generating, and the subscribers are growing at a lovely rate. I really want to keep this going for us all, so please as always get involved and do as much as you can. Right guys, thanks for watching. You'll be sick of my voice by now, so I'm going to leave it here. Happy Guildballing guys.